Ruvians, hello. Welcome to the review for the final episode of season one, and I think it pretty much sums it up as like there are some emotional moments in this story, but it just has that sort of happy feel good ending at the same time. So it's kind of a mix of like emotion and happy feel good ending with a little bit of a sinister moment from Mrs. Flood, which we again will come back to her near the end of the as we get to the ending portion of the episode. Without further ado, let's discuss about this last episode of the season and what transpired in part two of this two-parter. So we begin pretty much where we left off, where we're seeing Sutek give out the gift of death, well, basically their version of gift of death for the entirety of the planet Earth, which is essentially dust all over the planet Earth. And in fact, it just spreaded, and every time it touched a human being, they just fade into dust. Ruby's foster mother gets even Cherry Sunday. So basically, the Sunday family gets put into dust. Mrs. Flood gets put to dust. We have So I was a bit surprised that Mrs. Flood got thrown into dust, but there you go. Kate Stewart and the unit organization, along with Rose Noble, get thrown into dust. And the only people that were pretty much alive were Sutek and his harbingers, his loyalties, alongside the Doctor, Mel Bush, and of course Ruby Sunday, being the only people who still exist within the solar system, considering the fact that they were the only people alive since the dust stuff happened. So it was pretty insane that these were the only people alive right now. So, and the cool thing is, we also got to see the memory TARDIS from Tales of the TARDIS, which was really cool. It got a presence in this story, and you got to see many different Easter eggs, including Mel hugging the Sixth Doctor's cloak, and even hugging the Seventh Doctor's waist sweatshirt that he wore when Sylvester McCoy won his sort of question mark sweatshirt during his time as the Seventh Doctor. So that was really cool that she was holding items related to Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor and Sylvester McCoy's Seventh, who were the two Doctors that Mel Bush actually travelled with during her original run in Doctor Who. So that was really nice. They did a little Easter egg there. She also picked up a couple of past screwdrivers in the drawer, which shows that this memory TARDIS does have past screwdrivers that the Doctor's had over the years. There was also other items like the whistle that the Doctor had in the TARDIS once upon a time. The 15th Doctor used it to his advantage, which was cool. So the whole concept of this episode obviously was to try and figure out stuff about Ruby's mom, because they felt that Ruby's mom was the secret to potentially defeating Sutek, because obviously Sutek was refusing to beat the Doctor, and also because he was also looking for answers as to who Ruby's mom was. And then all of a sudden they were seeing flashbacks of obviously the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane, obviously when the Doctor was Tom Baker, along with Elizabeth Slater and Sarah Jane when they first met Sutek, and then they come across that hooded woman who left Ruby on Ruby Road, and obviously setting up that whole, continuing that whole thread about who is Ruby's mother. Eventually, Ruby gets the memory of a scene from 73 Yards where we see that G. William guy again, that evil politician who we would end up seeing in 2046, that election. So the fact that we see memories of 73 Yards being brought back as sort of an answer to essentially finding out Ruby's mother. And of course, it was within that moment, obviously, as they arrive in the 1940s, 2046, that is, obviously the Doctor, it made it look like the Doctor didn't know about Mel being possessed by Sutek and Sutek using Mel under his spell. Obviously, it was pretty obvious the Doctor, later on, that the Doctor knew this was happening, and he told Ruby, look, we need to start having a plan to stop Sutek, because he basically has control of Mel. They knew that Mel basically was possessed by Sutek and was basically, and then of course when Ruby was trying to find out about the thing, eventually, yeah, she was taken control by Sutek, and obviously Sutek ordered the corrupted Mel to basically bring pretty much just to bring the Doctor back to the unit HQ so that Sutek can finally find out who Ruby's mother is. And obviously Ruby tricked Sutek into giving the actual name by destroying the TV monitor and then grabbing hold of the Sutek to eventually the Doctor would use the glove, that incredible glove, that Gripple glove that we saw back in the Church on Ruby Road, and using a string from the memory TARDIS that he brought in and managed to get his regular TARDIS back, obviously pushing the Harbingers away so that he can pull Sutek away from planet Earth, so then that way it would help basically bring people back to life, which was pretty much what it did. And he did it so perfectly. He was able to bring that back to death. Obviously he was able to keep Sutek away to the point that everyone was coming back from the dust. And yeah, he basically used Sutek as a way to bring life back from death, pretty much. And in the process, he was saving planets at the same time, to the point that, well, the Doctor basically had to become a monster to basically push Sutek back into the vortex to the point where fade into dust in the vortex. So that would be the end of Sutek, and that was basically the Doctor's way of dealing with Sutek, was to put him into the time vortex, which is pretty cool. And it was from that moment on, of course, with everybody coming back to normal and Susan trying to finally coming back to normal, yeah, Kate Stewart basically offered Susan Triad a place in unit, which is very interesting because it begs the question, what is the future holds for Susan Triad now that she's be a part of unit. So it'll be very interesting to see whether we'll see that face again in the future. Maybe, I don't know, but it's just interesting that she's now possibly going to get a job in unit and maybe be in the Team Maker potentially. Who knows? Obviously, it was in this point when the Doctor and Ruby came back to the unit tower, they eventually found out the secret, and that is the mystery that we've been wanting to know since the Church on Ruby Road, since last Christmas, and that is, who is Ruby's mother? Well, we finally have a name to finally go to that mystery. The mystery has been solved, as they say. The name of the DNA of Ruby's mother was Louise Allison Miller, a 35-year-old woman who at the age of 15 gave birth to Ruby. And also the fact that her stepfather was basically a troublemaker, and she made the right choice to get out of their home and hide the pregnancy. So eventually Ruby was born. Essentially, that pregnancy was hidden from the records so that her father never really knew, pretty much. But of course, the fact that that was basically that just shows how ordinary her Ruby's mother basically was, and that she wasn't like a Time Lord, she wasn't a god, even though the Doctor does say she was important because we think she was important, and that's how everything happens. Every war, every legend, every love song, we invest things with significance. So yeah, very interesting. But either way, it was just basically a scared little girl making her baby safe. Pretty much the concept of basically Ruby's mother, pretty much. And that is basically how that worked. And yeah, it's just amazing how ordinary her mother really was. It was from that moment, of course, Ruby decided, you know what, let's go and meet her. And they went through a time machine to finally get to her. And it was from that moment that, obviously Ruby ordered a coffee. And it was from that moment when her name was called, Louise finally realized that had a very emotional moment when she realized, oh my God, that is my daughter. That is the daughter that I gave birth to and I hid away. And it was after like 7,000 days and probably many years that Ruby finally reunited with her real mother. And it was from that moment that later Louise would finally come to the Sundays household and finally show photos of Ruby's childhood. Yeah, the fact that she was also on her way to meet her biological father at the same time, thanks to her birth mother, who basically was saying, yeah, let's go and see your father so you know who your father is. But yeah, it's just crazy to think that it was pretty much that simple. It was basically just an ordinary mother who was looking after her daughter, pretty much. And by the way, the person who was playing Ruby's mom was Faye McKevis, who, by the way, she actually has appeared in BBC in Hollyoaks' spin-off The City. She also appeared in BBC Three's Massive, Little Blue Boy, Unforgiven. She also appeared in The Shameless and The Streep. So these are just some of the shows that the actress was a part of before she got this role of being Ruby's mom, pretty much, which is crazy to think that she was basically Ruby's mom this entire time. And yeah, it was pretty much that simple. And obviously it was in that moment that kind of obviously had to turn down her trip with the doctor because of her going to see her biological father, obviously. And then, she tried to offer the doctor to stay, but the doctor was like, I prefer traveling, because we all know the doctor loves to travel and loves to, be out there and exploring stuff. So, of course, he kind of turned down the offer to go and see Ruby's real life family. But he does promise her that, we will meet again. They will meet again. And of course, they're going to meet again because season 2, we're bound to see them bump into each other again. So, yeah, season 2, they'll definitely be back. Don't worry. They'll be back together again in season 2. But then things get very interesting as we get to the final moments of the episode, which kind of shows it's really interesting because it does show snow outside with Ruby's mother in that, where we get a bit of a sort of a narrative, a narrative moment from Mrs. Flood. And what was really interesting is that Mrs. Flood was wearing a fur coat, but also she was holding an umbrella, which is very interesting because, well, who else do we know in British culture in terms of films and TV shows likes to hold an umbrella? Well, there's only one movie in particular that I can think of, Mary Poppins. And that was the first thing that came to my head when I saw Mrs. Flood holding an umbrella with a fur coat. It kind of makes me think that she is kind of Doctor Who's version of Mary Poppins in a way, considering the fact that she's holding an umbrella on top of the rooftop of the Sundays household, and yet she just, and at the same time she's like, oh yeah, the Church on Ruby Road mystery is over, and then when she talks about the doctor, she's like, oh yeah, the doctor's not going to be okay. He's dealing with he's still got a crisis yet to uncover, and be really sinister in terms of like, oh, he's never going to be okay sort of response. And I'm like, who is this? Who is she really? Like, if she is going to be this like Mary Poppins character, then surely we must know who her real identity is going to be, right? So my assumption is that we're probably not going to know who she is until season 2 because of the fact, the way she's interpreting the fact that the doctor's never going to be safe, he's never going to be okay, he's never going to recover. He's just being so negative about the doctor makes you wonder: is it the Rani? Is it a sinister enemy of the doctor's past that's hiding away until the right moment? I'm starting to think that maybe she could be a future Rani at some point, considering she's been, she doesn't seem to say anything nice about the doctor lately. Makes me think, yes, this could be the Rani in the future, or a Rani the Rani that we will see hopefully in season 2, which would more sense that they would bring the enemy back, or bring the former Time Lord back at some point, especially if they're using Mrs. Flood as like a way to bring back the character potentially in the next season, which I think would be very interesting if they go down that path. But nevertheless, I am very, very interested to see what happens regarding Mrs. Flood, because I feel like Mrs. Flood is going to be a very important character heading into season 2, especially the way that she's reacting to, the doctor, and she's trying to like talk down about the doctor every time, she refers to him. So yeah, that's something that I'm being a little more suspicious about, is the whole Mrs. Flood conversation. So yeah, but nevertheless, that is pretty much how the episode wraps up, and of course it ends with Doctor Who will return, which we all know when the Doctor's going to return. He's going to return at Christmas in an episode called The Joy to the World, which we know Stephen Moffat's writing this year's Christmas special. So of course that's when we're going to see Ncuti Gatwa, the 15th Doctor, once again, and obviously he's going to be joined by a guest star, considering Ruby Sunday is at home, obviously meeting her mom, catching up with her mother and her real father, pretty much. So she's going to be a bit busy to be able to be involved in this, but no, it doesn't mean it's the end of her, obviously. So yeah, I'm interested to see what happens. Yeah, I'm interested to see what's going to go down in terms of in terms of the Christmas special. I think the Christmas special might be a lot of fun, considering if it's Stephen Moffat's final script. Of course, they're going to have to make a big deal about it. Of course, they will. They're going to have to hype it up like it's a moment for Stephen to say goodbye to Doctor Who fans. But either way, I would love to hear. Obviously, we haven't seen any trailers yet because there's been no trailers out whatsoever. As far as I know, I don't think any trailers have dropped online yet. Checked everything and nothing. Yeah, there's really nothing right now. Trust me, there is no trailer whatsoever for Joy to the World. So if you're hoping to get a trailer ahead of time, don't think it's happening because yeah. I think it's safe to say that yeah, we're probably going to have to wait until the actual TV broadcast of after the TV broadcast of the finale episode until we get to see our first look, Joy to the World, which is this year's Christmas special. And I'll be interested to see that trailer's going to look like. I think the trailer's going to be pretty impressive, and especially given it's Moffat's potential final script. Of course, he's going to go all out in terms of what he wants to do with this special specifically. So I have no doubt to believe Stephen Moffat's going to do a pretty damn good job with his farewell script. So fingers crossed that's what we're going to see in the trailer that will drop most likely after the BBC broadcast. So I'm thinking about maybe doing a reaction video to that potentially. So you might want to stay tuned because we might do a reaction video should they drop it this evening, which I'm pretty confident they will, because I can't imagine them not releasing any trailers for this episode this weekend. So of course they're going to drop some. With that said, really, that's all we've got. In the meantime, yeah, it's pretty quiet pretty much until now, and of course we're just waiting for yeah, I think we're just gonna wait and see what happens with Doctor Who now until Christmas, really. I mean there might be a chance we'll see the spin-off of the Sea Devil spin-off, the war between land and sea. It could come out before the end of the year. I mean, we've got the Doctor Who proms later this year as well. That's going to get a TV broadcast. And then, yeah, I think it's just the wait for Christmas, which, by the way, is this year's Christmas special is going to most likely air in 186 days. Should it be Christmas Day, that's how long we've got to wait. Yeah, we've got a bit of time to wait, trust me. Anyway, let me know in the conversation what you make of this finale. Were you pleased about the Ruby's mother reveal, and more importantly, what are you hoping for this year's Christmas special? I feel like this year's Christmas special will be fun. That's what I think. I think we're going to be in for an interesting, fun moment in regards to what they're going to try and do Christmas this year, especially as it's Moffat's farewell script in December. So either way, let me know what you think, and also be sure to look out next Saturday because I am going to be doing an overview of season 1. I plan to do an overview where we get to look back at all, basically highlight my favorite episodes of season 1. Yeah, just as the series as a whole, what I love about it. You'll get to see that next Saturday as we wrap up our season 1 reviews with an overview, and then on top of that, we're going to have quite a bit of reviews and stuff to look forward to in the run up to the Christmas special this year. So I'll see you guys see you guys next week with my overview for season 1, and look out for some potential reactions that could be coming out later this week. So see you then.